YouTubers, Barry here. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. I'm here now on Monday brewing my Holy Inn Brewing Company Barleywine 2014. I think I'm just going to leave it at that and not give it a fancy name for now until maybe I taste the beer when it's ready. So I didn't film the first part of Brew Day, which is the mash, because I knew that with 19.5 pounds of grain that I would, I have to really keep an eye on it and make sure to get good efficiency. So one thing that I was nervous about was, maybe I should adjust the water, because John at Better Nesters, when I picked up the grain yesterday on Sunday, he recommended that I make the mash pH, between 5.2 and 5.4, to make sure that I get good conversion. So he also sent me a Excel type spreadsheet water chemistry converter that John Palmer put out, and he inputted the New York water profile, but I was trying to play with it and based on his recommendations and instructions, and it wasn't really working. So he said, you know what, my calcium chloride is good for lowering mash pH, which I was going to use anyway, whether I use the calculator or not. And let me add a teaspoon at a time and see where it goes. So I did that, used my pH meter that I got with the water testing kit that I got from the Lamont company, also which Tony Yates got one now, and it brought it down from about 5.6 most of the way through the mash to 5.34. So right on the money, right between 5.2 and 5.4, and in the end I got 77.7% mash efficiency, which in numbers or specific gravity, that's 1075 instead of 1082. So what I did was I went on Beersmith and I calculated that if I added a 1.25 pounds of DME, that I could get back up to that. So I did that. As you see here, it's been boiling for about 7 minutes, and it looks really nice, a really nice red color. I'm looking forward to seeing what the final color is. This year I added a little more crystal malts, a pound of crystal 80 and 12 ounces of 120. Even though it's still like 78% Maris Otter, I wanted to add a little more crystal malt just to make it darker without, the darkness that oak chips would add, which I got in the 2013/14 vintage. It was bottled in the beginning of 2014. So what I did was I put 2 packs of Y Yeast 1968 or London ESB. What happened was when I went to pitch the yeast, I don't know if it wasn't I didn't shake the smack packs that had inflated enough, but I lost, in the end, when I was trying to pour it out, I lost some of the yeast because it's such a flocculent yeast strain. It clumps up more in the smack pack, as you see it also does in the starter. So I lost a little yeast, but even if I lost half of one of the packages, Beersmith says even with 1.5 packages, because it was such a fresh, 2 fresh smack packs, the manufacturing date was 10/1/14 or October 1st, since it was so fresh that I didn't even need as big of a yeast starter as it would be if I had used an older smack pack, or older set of smack packs I should say. So as you see here, there's a ton of yeast. These English yeasts are known for flocculating a lot, so that's why you see the big clumps of yeast in there. So I should have, if I leave it for until the 24-hour mark, which is tonight about 11:30, then I should have enough yeast. And if not, then I always have champagne yeast on hand to knock down a few points extra if it stalls. Or I can always, go to the homebrew shop and get more yeast if I really needed to.
Every once in a while, when the time is right, no cloud in the sky, and the fruit is ripe. Birds sing out from their trees.
I put it for 24 hours on the stir plate, and then cold crashed it overnight, decanted, most of the wort, most of the starter, swirled it up, and put the yeast in. And now we're at about the, let's say, 8.5 hour mark or so, and it's already taken off, which means that the starter did its job. There was enough yeast to get things started on a very quick basis. So I'm going to go ahead and open the chamber. And then show you what's going on. Let's bring you over here. Okay, and as you can see, even at 8.5 hours, it's really pumping. Like, sometimes you would think for a big beer especially, it would take, you know, a good 12 hours to get started, but with a very healthy big starter, a lot of yeast. I even used, somehow Beersmith said I didn't even need to, you know, as much yeast as I pitched. So obviously it's doing its job, and I'm really glad to, you know, to see what happens in the next 24 hours in terms of how much blow off there is, etc., etc. Alright guys, so as promised, I'm going to show you putting on my last 2 caps. I didn't show you putting on the rest because I mentioned it in previous videos, and I don't think it's really important, you know, for DIY reasons. Maybe I'll even post a separate video of the whole putting on the epoxy, but I will video doing the whole epoxy part, which I might not do for another week or so, because I'm going to be opening the keezer, you know, a bunch to pick out beer, and you need to let it sit for a day or two before you actually, you know, can open it, because it has to set in 2 stages. So the method I've been using is Gorilla Glue, the standard Gorilla Super Glue. You know, I'm sure you could use other brands, but I just like the shape of this bottle, and it makes it easier to, you know, to apply the caps. So the basic method is very basic, and all you do is, I don't know if you can see the clear glue, but I've been approximating it, you know, which probably means that I'm sacrificing a lot of glue, but it does dry clear. So, and make sure you buy the super glue that does dry clear. You don't want white or other colors, you know, splotches in between caps. And then for this, the 4th to last row it's the last row that's actually where all the caps are butting up completely against each other, and it's the last 3 really that are more spaced out to fill the void that I found once I got to the last few rows. So what I've been doing for the last 4 rows is instead of going vertically, I'm going horizontally, just to make sure that I can space out the caps and have the rows look somewhat straight.